Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ali Bayat, and I'm a third-year PhD student here at Alliance Manchester Business School. And I'm very pleased that my paper was selected for a Corona Prize. I need to thank the committee and Suhaid for selecting my paper. And my paper title is Cultural Foundation of Corporate Control and Empirical Inquiry. I would like to begin by talking about hostile takeover resistance, but before going to details, I would like to talk a little bit about corporate governance, the dominant view in corporate governance today, and also how it relates to the theory of market for corporate control. And if we want to understand the dominant view in corporate governance today, we need to go back to the seminal work of Jensen and McLean, where they consider corporations as a form of legal fiction that can be best understood in terms of contracts. And if we are trying to understand the behavior of the individuals in an organization, we need to look at the contracts. And a corporation can have different stakeholders, and these stakeholders can act based on the terms and the nature of the contracts. And corporate governance also is not an exception. It's a contract, but it's a contract between the shareholders, the principals, and on the other side, the managers. So the aim of corporate governance is really the act of monitoring, which in itself includes efforts on the part of principals to control the behavior of the agents through budget restriction, compensation policies, and operating rules. So what if the internal governance system doesn't work? Then we come to the theory of market for corporate control, where there's been suggested that there are active observers outside that actively monitor the performance of the firm, and if the firm does not perform to the expectation of its shareholder, then they can take over the control of the firm, and there's a market for it, and this market is efficient. This is the aim of hostile takeovers. And if a target firm tries to resist a takeover, it is as a part of managerial entrenchment project, as this dominant view in corporate governance take it. But in my research, I would like to take a different approach. First, if we have a look at the terminology or the normative framing that the media and the participants use in hostile takeovers, you'll see that it's like a battle. It's like someone is taking control of a firm, and they need to resist these takeovers. For example, I have brought here a quote from an executive suggesting how he interprets the hostile takeovers. So there is especially a lot of emotion in it when you are the one under attack, is as if you just found out that someone's made a more attractive offer to your wife. Okay, or if you look at the terminology used in hostile takeover, it's the same picture. And there was an interesting paper that looked at the media account of these hostile takeovers to see how these hostile takeovers institutionalized throughout the time. And you can see different genres and the images that they've used to describe hostile takeovers. So if it is just for, if it is a legitimate act for an acquiring firm to come and take control of another firm, how can we see these images and terminologies and these normative framings? Jensen suggests that these are the biased view of the media while they are interpreting these hostile takeovers. There are some other studies that suggest because these are the kind of hostile takeovers in 80s was a new phenomenon. these are the way to legitimize the existence of hostile takeovers. But we take a different approach. We translate these narratives as a true reflection of cultural norms, values, and beliefs of the people in the era and the place where these events take place. So our research evaluates the cultural underpinning of corporate control. We would like to see how cultural dynamic shapes the corporate hostile takeover resistance. And also, our analysis is built upon the view that hostile takeovers are events that threaten organizational identity, and also it is an arena in which concerns about esteem, honor, and dignity are being played out. So it is more than just a transaction or the contract, but there might be some other cultural dynamics that play a role here. And the aim of this research is to look at these. And there is a common practice to use Schwartz or other cultural framework to study culture in relationship to firm practices or corporate governance practices. But here, because if we take that broad view, there will be some identification problems. I specifically look at only one type of culture. It's called culture of honor. And I look at it in the United States. But what is honor? What do we mean by honor? Honor originates from two things. One is self-estimation of person's own value, and how much of that value is recognized by the society. And I really like this definition by a British anthropologist, Pete River, who proposed that honor can be defined in a way which people extort from others the validation of the image which they cherish of themselves. So the honor culture is characterized by concern for reputation maintenance, social standing, and defense. So men in this culture tries to build an image of personal strength, and then they try to sustain that image by remaining intolerant to provocation directed at self, property, or family. And about culture of honor in the United States, the southern part of the United States is known to be a stronghold for culture of honor, and the historical root of the emergence of this culture in the United States is affiliated with the early settlements of herders from a fringe of Britain in 18th century. And the people who came to be the inhabitants of the South were mostly Protestant Scotch-Irish with animal herding background. They were different from Northerners, who were mostly German, English, Dutch farmers. And unlike crops, herds were prone to theft, and subsequently herders need to demonstrate willingness to engage in violent retribution against predatory behavior, and hence seek and maintain a status for it. So they need to show, create an image of toughness to be able to survive in that area. Okay, and there are reports that these core characteristics of honor culture still exist in the southern part of United States. But this culture of honor is well studied in the field of social psychology, and they study honor culture as an explanation for higher violent crime rate in the southern part of the United States. And the measure that they use for honor culture is a regional dummy variable, south versus north or south versus the rest of the country. But most recently, there's been some tendency to use the Scotch-Irish population density in the United States to be able to capture this culture of honor. And here I've plotted the Scotch-Irish population density in each state in the United States. Okay? And there's been some experiments in relationship to the culture of honor to see whether there is such a thing as culture of honor in the United States still today. So I'll play a video clip for you here. It's an experiment done by Professor Nisbet talking
For å
about
teste ut dette gjorde Nisbet et eksperiment som blitt berømt som det såkalte drittsekk-eksperimentet.
We had southern and northern U.S. subjects who were at the University of Michigan come into the laboratory for a study on thinking. As soon as they get to the laboratory, they fill out a questionnaire. The experimenter says, please take your questionnaire down to the end of the hall and leave it on the table at the end. And there's a guy standing at one of the file cabinets with the drawer out, and he's blocking the participants way to the table. Participant turns around and he's going to have to get past this guy at the file cabinets again. The guy slams the cabinet door shut, pushes into the shoulder of the participant and says, asshole. Now the question is, how do people react to this? Northern subjects sort of feel a little startled and sort of laugh. I mean, sort of, what's your problem? The southern subjects flush. I mean, they get obviously angry.
Nisbet tok også spyttprøver for rent kjemisk å måle hvor sinte de egentlig hadde blitt.
When we measure subsequently their cortisol level, which indicates their stress level, that's been increased. It's been a stress for the Southerners. It's not a stress for the Northerners, so far as their cortisol level is concerned. And testosterone level increases for the Southerners, so they're ready for a fight. It doesn't increase for the Northerners.
Nisbet utførte flere lignende eksperimenter, og alle viste det samme. Folk fra sørstatene mer hissige enn folk fra nordstatene. Men ikke dette en uheldig type forskning som stempler en gruppe som voldelige hissigpropper?
When I first started doing this research and talking about it in public, I was afraid that I would offend Southerners. No, the only people I offend is Northern liberals who take, who out of a sense of political correctness, they would sometimes say at the end of my talks, this is terrible the way you're talking about these Southern people, making them look bad. I said, but no Southerner ever.
They're proud of it.
They're proud of it, and they can't believe that Northerners are such wimps.
Okay, so how do I frame my hypothesis? I use 4 stylized facts about this culture of honor that I think is related to, hostile takeovers. Because in hostile takeovers, what happens normally is that the acquiring firm goes directly to the shareholders without informing the board of the member or the management, and it can be really an insult for the incumbent managers or the board members. So I believe that if the hostile takeovers, if there is a hostility in hostile takeovers, it should be an insult to the Southerners or the people who maintain an honor culture. Or if it is not directly, it might be the firm that operates in a honor culture. They might conform to the culture of the environment where the firm operates. So I use 4 stylized facts about the honor culture. The first one is men in possession of honor values are more likely to see a provocation as a threat to their masculine reputation and are more likely to react to it. And the second one is men in honor culture overestimate the aggressiveness of their male peers. And the conflation of self and broader social identity is more inflated among honor endorsers. So a threat to a nation or a firm, the Southerners or the people with honor culture take it personally. And the fourth one is that institutions located in honor places can promote the behavior in accordance with the norm of the honor culture. So these are the 4 stylized facts that I'll be using to study the defensive behavior of target companies in a hostile takeover. And these are the 3 hypotheses that I put forward. So I believe that it should take longer to acquire a firm which is in an honor place, because they're more resistant. It's a threat for themselves, and they resist more to these events. So I think it takes longer to complete a hostile takeover, or it should be shorter to withdraw a takeover in these places. And also as a result of great resistance, the target firms located in places that maintain honor codes are more likely to win a takeover battle. So the failure rate should be higher in places where there exists a culture of honor. So about the empirical analysis, the empirical models that are posed to test this for the first two hypotheses, I use model 1 and 2, and for the third hypothesis, I use this one. So it's the duration of hostile takeovers as the dependent variable, and then we have Scott-Irish and the status, whether it's completed or withdrawn, and the interaction term between the Scott-Irish population density and the status. First one is an OLS model, and the second one is a fixed effect model. And for the likelihood of failure, I use this probability of failure as a function of the Scott-Irish population density.
What is that sign?
It's a Scott-Irish.
Is it the dummy value or?
No, it's the population density of a Scott-Irish in each state.
Okay. And the status is a dummy value?
Status is a dummy variable. 1 if withdrawn, and 0 if completed. So we should expect it should take longer to complete and shorter to withdraw. That's why I've introduced the interaction terms as well. So just some exploratory analysis. I've plotted here the Scott-Irish population density in each state against the number of days to withdraw a hostile takeover and the number of days to complete a hostile takeover. As can be seen, this is the pattern that I was looking for, and in places where there exists an honor culture, it's shorter to withdraw and longer to complete. But does this pattern remain if we control for a set of variables? So I'll go to this table. The first column is an OLS. Okay. What I'm interested in is the Scott-Irish, the coefficient for the Scott-Irish and the Scott-Irish status interaction. As can be seen by this model, it takes 1 percentage point increase in the population of Scott-Irish in a state results in 13 days or nearly 14 days increase in the duration of takeover for hostile for completed ones, and for the withdrawn case, it's 1 day difference. And it is at the, I've measured Scott-Irish at the state levels here, but here for robustness check, I also looked at the Scott-Irish at the city level. So the Scott-Irish population density in each city, and then we have the same configuration. And here again, we can see the same results. It takes nearly 20 days longer for 1 percentage point increase in the Scott-Irish population density at each city. And there might be some self-selection going on here. Maybe Scott-Irish people self-select themselves to different states. Okay, so what I've done here is I ran a fixed effect. So I took the Scott-Irish population density in each city and ran a state level fixed effect to see if we have the same pattern. It's even though for the withdraw takeovers, the number of days is still higher for states with higher population of Scott-Irish. For the completed takeovers, the coefficient is much higher than the previous models. And also, this pattern might be related to something else than culture of honor. It might be because of the slavery or Great Depression or geographical endowment. We don't know. It might be for some other things. So what I did, I replaced the Scottish population density, which was taken from 2000 US census, with the Scottish population density in 1790. So, and it is still significant. So 1 percentage point increase in the population of Scottish at the county level in 1719 is associated with 4 days increase in the completed takeovers. And I propose that this is the result of culture of honor, but nothing else. And I've also controlled in all models for some firm characteristics, the deal characteristics, year, target industry, and acquiring industry. And we'll go to the second section where I look at the probability of failure. And it can be seen the Scottish population density is in the horizontal line, and on the other dimension is the number of withdrawn hostile bids as a portion of total hostile takeovers. And it can be seen that in places with an honor culture, the probability of failure is higher. And here I've run 2 probit models. Again, the Scottish at the state level and at the city level are significant in determining the probability of failure. Okay, and I also looked at the resistance for the friendly takeovers. Based on my hypothesis, it shouldn't be there shouldn't be any systematic difference between the number of days to complete or to withdraw a takeover when it is friendly, but it should matter for those takeovers that are hostile. And it's interesting that I found that there is no systematic difference between the number of days to complete or withdraw a hostile takeover for friendly takeovers, but it is a matter for hostile takeovers, which is a more validation to my results. And also my results are consistent if I use a different estimators, like if I use other estimators for my study. So Blair defines corporate governance as a whole set of legal, cultural, and institutional arrangements that determines what publicly traded corporations can do, who controls them, how that control is exercised, and how the risk and returns from activities they undertake are allocated. So we know that culture can be an important factor, but the part of literature that studies corporate governance with relationship to culture is intact. In the previous research, we see a numerous line of research on regulatory provisions and economic incentives and how they relate to takeover resistance. But our paper is new in terms of seeing how cultural dynamic can shape the takeover resistance. What are the implications that we have, or this research has? So the research highlights culture as a factor that can cause inefficiencies in the market for corporate control. And what I mean here is that even if a firm located in other places does not perform up to the expectation of the shareholders, the acquiring firm might find it difficult to take control of the firm by making a hostile bid for the company. And culture in this context can restrain the power of external mechanism in mitigating the agency problem. And thank you for your time.